everybody. Welcome back to another cruise with Smooth. I know I'm not posting content like normally, just life is significantly different right now. As I've said, my wife is currently an essential employee. I'm laid off. So I'm stay at home. I'm not taking the long commutes I normally do. So it's a little tougher to get the time to do these videos. I guess I had a topic in mind to talk about, and I'll be darned if I can remember what it was. Gosh, this is a pretty drive. Outside hustling today, that's why I'm in the old truck. I was listening to some news throughout the day because that's one of the things that I enjoy doing while I'm out cutting the grass or driving, what have you. And I tell you what, I've been seriously wondering years from now, a year and a half from now, when whatever the fix for coronavirus is in, and we can cope with it, handle it, whatever, or we just have a vaccine for it and we don't catch this strain again. I'm seriously wondering what everyone's going to think about it looking back. Seriously wondering. And what I mean, like, okay, well, we have done what we needed to do as a country. Will we think that we should have done more? Should we have gone into social isolation earlier? Should we have cut off everything inbound from China, the first sign of trouble, which we basically did, but I do know that there was a timetable on that. I know that I actually heard Donald Trump's speech about suspending all inbound travel from China, that there was a timeline on it by the end of that specific week. I don't remember the dates. I just know that it's a thing that happened. Should we have done that instantly at the first sign of trouble? You know, what should we have done? Should we have gone into national social lockdown? Right now, it does vary state to state a little bit and country to country. You know, what should we have done? Did we overreact? Is this thing really as bad as the flu, and just the fact that we've had a above normal flu season and coronavirus, is that what swamped the medical system? Is it as bad as the flu? There are several studies and lines of thought that suggest that this virus is not the 2 to 3% death rate for all those cases. The simple fact is there's not enough tests for everybody. There's some people that show some symptoms. There's some people that show all the symptoms. And in my state, they have not been able to get tests for whatever reason. So I know secondhand, albeit, of several people who have not gotten tested for coronavirus that show symptoms. And those people probably exposed other people. And as far as I'm aware, nothing in that circle has happened concerning this. They got over it, got better, and never had a test. So once we get the test, specifically the, I believe it's called the blood serum test, where they can actually test your blood for a latent antibody and figure out if you had it, what's the mortality rate. If everybody in the country had it and everybody knew we had it, what's the actual mortality rate? Now, I know that there's the whole flattening the curve for the medical community, because there obviously are a percentage of cases that are going to require rather intense medical treatment. Whether it's effective or not, that's up in the air. On really bad cases, a lot of people, once they're on ventilators, are slipping off into a coma and they're not coming out of it. And that's kind of tragic, because families aren't even able to go in there and say their goodbyes, which I get. But you know what happens if this thing has a mortality rate like the flu? I think we're going to look back in a few years and think that we were very stupid. My opinion, could be wrong. I don't care if I am. I know that with an unknown virus, and realistically not wanting to, having good reason to not want to trust the Chinese data that was provided to us, I can understand why we did what we did to this point. But will it be thought of historically as an overreaction? I think it's possible. I also think it's possible that we did too little and maybe too late. I don't know. I mean, right now I'm not breaking any of the social distancing protocols, but I am moving about freely. I'm driving my truck, cutting grass. I'm on the last yard before I head home, so I'm trying to get out of the lawn care business. Been trying to for years. It just hasn't happened yet. So my commute to cut all this grass has gotten ridiculous. But I'm curious what we'll think about it in the long term. That's interesting to me. Right now you're hearing a lot of very rough stories about families that have not gotten any money. Their unemployment's behind. Mine's behind. My state and my company works pretty close with the unemployment office, because there's a lot of people that have to file at various times in the year for various reasons. It's not a very rarely is it unplanned, but it just happens, because we might give you a case in point. There was several hundred people per shift at my plant that, due to a longer retooling cycle over a maintenance shutdown, they were out of work for 2 months, I think it was, drawn unemployment. The company worked with the state, got 90% of it set up, so all they had to do was just call weekly and request their checks. Well, that's fine and dandy, but the state unemployment system was not set up for the rates of unemployment claims that they're getting. Right now, there's 3 big factories that I know of that are shuttered, not counting all the factories up the supply chain from them that supply them with assemblies and small parts to help them get the finished product built. So this is an unprecedented amount of unemployment, and some of these companies didn't have the heads up that the company I work for did. But oh dear, two deer. Oh jeez, what a bump. Jeez. I was stopped anyway. All right. So I'm concerned about the unemployment system just being overwhelmed. I know some people at work that filed their unemployment same day I did, and they've got their checks. I know some people that haven't gotten their checks yet. I'm among those that haven't. I also know that long term, the federal government can't keep just printing money and shoveling it out the door to keep everything going, because then inflation will run like wildfire, and everybody that has savings will have a highly reduced percentage on the dollar for their life savings in a lot of cases. So the economic response to this has to be very carefully thought out, weighed out, measured, and done with great care. And the government's not good at much of that stuff. Wish I had a four-wheeler. That looks like a good spot to go off-roading. Tell you about a lesson I learned a long time ago, folks. If you have a brand new to you vehicle that you're making payments on and it's four-wheel drive, that is not your off-road toy. Learned that one the hard way. A number of years ago, I bought a little Ranger. I bought it out of desire to have a four-wheel drive. I had a two-wheel drive SUV, cutting grass. Occasionally, you'll get the lawnmower hung up in a swampy area, or you'll just get it jammed in somewhere and you ain't got the strength to shove it out of there. So I went and bought a low-mile, sharp little truck, and I didn't even like it when I bought it. I just want something four-wheel drive. I didn't drive it often. When I bought it, I drove it 1-2 days a week. That was it. And I fell in love with this little truck. Loved it. Drove it everywhere, even though it got crap gas mileage. I had the worst engine that Ford put in that truck, because it gave you the performance and towing capacity of a V6 with the fuel consumption of a V8. Think on that for a second. Still loved it. It felt like coming home. Just had a good feel to it. It was in my top 3 favorite vehicles of all time just to drive. It wasn't the fastest thing on the road. It did really good in the snow. Hang on. Going under an overpass, and I am a child. But anyway, I found a little spot not too far from my house to go off-roading, and I went out there and I started poking around, and I found where the water got deep, and I knew, okay, well, you can go down to here, no further. I went the other way. Okay, well, this is where the rocks start getting too big, you'll bottom out. Fun. Went down there with some they weren't my kids. I didn't know my wife at this point in time. Went down there with some kids that I knew, and just to show them, and the water was a little deeper than it was the last time I was down there, and I got an engine, transmission, transfer case, and 2 differentials full of water, not to mention a cab full of water. It didn't go all the way under. I had water up to about it was tilted over like so, but if you were to level it out, it would have been about to the bottom of the steering wheel. And think of all the wiring and electrical connect. Good golly, this is a rough stretch of road. I'm not coming this way again. All the wiring and electrical connections, fuse boxes, little computers. And so I had a truck for about a month and a half, 2 months, that I was making a payment on, paying insurance on, that I was also taking apart and getting work done on, that was due to my own stupidity. And Dad warned me about it, and I felt like an idiot for not listening to him after the fact. And on top of that, got the truck running, got some other work done to it that was related to it, and it was never 100% right after that. It had a big old transmission problem that cropped up. It had a 5-speed automatic, and if you floored it or gave it over 50% throttle from a red light, it would go 1, 2, and then it would hit the governor and go no faster until you lifted. Then it would go 4, 5. If you took off easy, it would go first and not shift, and then the transmission light would start to flash to let you know something was wrong. You'd lift off, and then it would go 3, 4, 5. So it had problems up till the day it got totaled. Another story altogether. Anyway, but I kept it till the day it got totaled, and I lived with those problems. And I had a 4-wheel drive actuator go out, which was the computer that went between the little dash switch and the motor to keep everything happy. I had a 4-wheel drive motor decide to just randomly go into 4-wheel drive low while I was doing about 40. That was fun. So the truck didn't know it was in 4 low, and so it was using all the calculations for 2-wheel drive to calculate the speedometer. So I'm driving down one of the busier roads in town. The speedometer's saying I'm doing 95, I think's how fast, which was as fast as that truck would electronically let itself go. And I am barely keeping pace. Like, I'm doing maybe 42, 43 in a 45 mile an hour zone. That was a lot of fun. I had to come up with a different way to take that truck to and from work. At that point, it was what I had to drive. My wife and I we weren't married at that point, but she didn't have a vehicle. Bad things had happened with her. So I was the one driving the truck because I didn't want her to drive it, because I had a car that she could drive that was at least in good working order, and I didn't want her driving my truck that was temperamental at best. I can't believe I got someone following me up this road. Big narrow hill, that's why I geared down, folks. Anyway, got off on a bit of a wild spot there, but fun little truck. If I could have, I would have bought it back and probably just stuck a 5-speed in it in a manual 4-wheel drive box, and maybe tried to find a wrecked one that I could put just pull all the electronics out of it that was rolled over and put it in mine. That way everything would work better. Love that little truck. And the thing is, the older Rangers, this one was a 2002, 3. The older Rangers were such stupid little trucks. You get them with the smaller engines, they get good fuel mileage, run forever, but they couldn't pull anything. I almost overheated a 4-cylinder when pulling my empty trailer, which is a 3,500 pound rated trailer. Thing weighs about 500-600 pounds, up a big hill. Just me, empty trailer, empty bed of the truck. The bigger engines don't get fuel mileage and don't really perform that well, but good golly, I loved the way it drove. It felt way bigger than it was, pretty good off-road, and I didn't do anything lifting it up. I didn't do anything. It didn't have overly aggressive tires. Didn't have... The only modification on it is the previous owner, it was a trade-in at the dealership I used to work at. The previous owner did put a set of dual exhausts on it, which dual exhausts on a V6 with performance mufflers, take it or leave it sound wise. But you could tell when it started up, and it made a decent noise going through tunnels. V8s are better though. Anyway, folks, I might come back a little bit later. I've got one final yard to cut, and when I get done with that, I've got about a 20-25 minute ride going home. So I might be back and post up another, or record another video that I'll post it tonight. I know this was a little bit wild, a little bit no defined topic to talk about, which was interesting. I am hoping to go hang out with my buddy Danny again of the show I'm No Expert, and see what kind of shenanigans he's getting into, see what kind of crazy ideas he's got to talk about. I always have fun hanging out with him. I'll post a link in the description on a video at some point, don't know when. Y'all take care, stay safe during this. Like I said, I don't know what we're going to think about this in 6 months to 3 years, but in the meantime, while literally there's not enough information to make an informed decision, unfortunately, better safe than sorry. So unless you have to get out, I would just say don't. Unfortunately, some of the... I know grass isn't the most important thing, but it is a pain to deal with when it gets out of hand. And right now, with me being out of work, every little bit helps. So y'all take care, stay safe. I might be back later, record another video. I'll upload everything as soon as I can. Take care.